Welcome, everyone. We're here today together with a common purpose. Like to just take stock of where you're at in terms of gravity and weight. If you ask the question, who am I? Let's investigate the answer. There's just a sense of weight here. Adjust your posture if you need be and relax your body so that you can actually feel your weight. When you're stressed out, when I'm stressed out, I feel like I'm lifting up and away from my gravity. I wonder if you feel the same way. When I'm relaxing, I find I'm sinking into a gravity field. And that gravity is like a liquid and it pools down there. Let the body part names fall away. Just maybe you can have a sense of up and down. Let the images be images. No attachment to me or mine. It's just a memory and a perception of what was once a body, but no longer exists as a body because the eyes are closed and there's just a field of sensation. It's giving priority to what you know now over what you remember having known in the past. We're making a distinction to the present moment. So once again, ask the question, where am I? And let's investigate together. There's just this weight and weightlessness. Notice the shiftingness of weight and weightlessness. And allow what feels like a sinking. You can label it later whether it feels like relaxation or not, but allow the depths to be heavier and the upness to be pulled into downness. And notice some shifting up into weightlessness and some shifting down into weight. And that may or may not correspond to what you may call an in-breath or an out-breath in the objective third-person world. But in your first-person experience, there's just gravity or a sense of weight. Maybe gravity is too much of a concept. A sense of glue, of being more glued at the bottom and at the top. Like you just stuck something. And allow that feeling of stuckness or stickiness underneath to draw running awayness away from the upper body, and allow that weight and stickiness to be a healer for the upper body. Can pull everything away from what's above it into that heaviness. And see where the locus of the stuckness is, the stickiness. Is it centered? Is it wobbling from side to side? Is it wobbling forward and back? Where is the moving, where is the moving weight, the center of the weight? Put the awareness into the weight. And notice its changing nature, how it shifts, and keep sinking more into that weight until everything temporarily might feel heavier and weightier. Everything will get pulled into that weight. The initial, let's call it relaxation response, is initially to feel heavier than before. Because stress can feel lighter than is an initial reaction before you're, and while you're relaxing, the body will sink, and then after relaxing, the whole field experience of knowing what's here gets heavier. And allow that heaviness to continue. Try to not let awareness tinker with it and improve on it. There's nothing to improve here. It's just the presence of heaviness. Trust the process of shifting into weight. Jumping out of presence feels like jumping out of weight. Stay with the heaviness, trust it. Let all thoughts are just thoughts of control, resistance. Just adopt a mind's view of non-resistance. It's pure acceptance. Watch for the transformation of that feeling of weight by not resisting it. Will transform, and it might already be happening for you. Without resisting it, that sense of weight and heaviness will start mixing at a micro level with a new type of weightlessness, spaciousness. You can enter the gateway of the vibrational now. Through this gateway, bypass superficial layers of stress. Through this pathway, a mind of non-perceptions, non-visual, mind of imbued with presence, and reinitiate the weight exercise at any new resistance to it. allow the body to be overtaken by weight. Just allow. And then begin focusing on the deepest, heaviest point in that weight. How it pulls everything into it, like and then begin to notice its impermanent teetering and tottering and changing, revolving center, that weight. After watching that change for a while and the body be heavy and relaxed, or the field be heavy and relaxed, notice how it begins to transform to a sense of presence, pure vibrational buzzingness, pure sensation. Stay within the field. Mind will want to jump out of it. That's a form of stress. And it's a form of ignorance of the mind that it can alter reality in an instant with a thought. Blindly believes in its power of resistance of reality. Thinking is just drunkenness with its own power and resisting reality. When reality is just reality, we get reminders all the time that thinking is powerless. But it's powerful because it's backed by the ego. It's where the ego hides in our blindness to powerlessness of thought. We get sucked into thought. Let yourself get sucked into weight, reflection of impermanence, vibrational presence. We'll totally bypass the ego. Let's try this together one more time in silence. Let's walk through the steps one more time. Non-lifting, non-resisting, sinking into the depths, into the weight. Everything gets pulled down. A sense of skin or a border keeps us lifted, resisting gravity, resisting relaxation. There's a natural relaxation that the mind is fighting. There's a huge effort that goes into resisting natural relaxation. It's like an alert button, flashing lights. Just turn off the emergency sound system and light system. Find the natural relaxation in the depths. Sink into presence. There's no skin with your eyes closed. From your first person perspective, there's no border. There's a sense of sensations outside what would be a layer of skin. And there's no second field. There's nothing to compare this field to. You don't know distance without being able to measure one point to another point. You're just imagining a body there and measuring, oh, a sensation here and a sensation there. It's just one field of sensations with no separate universe or field of sensations outside. There's just now, there's just here. There's no there within the field of sensations. I mean, challenge what I'm saying, investigate. I'm inviting investigation. Where am I in this field of sensation? What if I am just an uncentered field of sensations? I invite you to consider that the past images and memories of images of this body are separate, a separate function, and that what we call a sankhara or a thought is just fabricating a connection between the two. It's not that that's bad or good. I'm just saying, giving you an understanding that there's mental work there that's being done to fabricate an illusion of me. Inviting you to see that activity of creating a unitary me that's created from distinct parts. And those images of the body come and go, and they can even disappear, and you can be just fine. There's a clinging, though, to that image of the body, like it feels like death when it goes away, or you might be frightened of it, but don't be frightened of it. It's the most beautiful thing in the world when that compulsive need to know I am an I starts to soften. So what fills in the place is a kind of gap for reality to come in to what feels like almost a true objectivity. The beauty and love of truth itself. It's where people start having spiritual experiences, right in this gap, and they really see clearly. And the ego sees itself and sees behind the curtain. No need to judge. Oh, I keep having an image of the body coming up. The objective is not, the objective is just wisdom. Accept whatever's arising. Try to stabilize in the peacefulness of the vibrations and the wisdom that comes from just being with presence, sensation, present moment, presently reoccurring sensations, popping and disappearing in the vibrational now. And then images come up, and where am I? Who am I? What are these separate data streams doing? How does an I form here? Meditation for me happens here, where you really roll up your sleeves. You decide not to hang back and fall asleep, but hang back and observe. How would a detective hang back and watch a thief coming and going in the house? Where can you position the looking? That you can see the ego jumping in and connecting dots that don't need connecting. And let the mind be in its reality and the body be in its reality. Now we're just learning. When I was practicing intensively, I called it setting alarm clocks. I saw those signals of resistance in the body, of like lifting away from weight, away from presence. That would be my alarm clock, that stress was setting back in. There was resistance setting in, and the ego wanted to pull away from the present moment. Before an even image would arise of a distraction, there are signposts, and you can set alarm clocks at those signposts to notice the arising of stress. And you can react quickly. That's the difference for intuitives that wake up fairly quickly. You just keep tracing the stress back. You just keep knowing what the ground of being is, ground of reality is, I guess is a better word. The ground of reality is in this objectivity of this element of heaviness pulls stress away. Then there's a new type of subtle stress that will arise, a new mind's resistance that's caught in the drunkenness and blindness of the ego. You trace that back to the cause, to the origin, to like a bodily sensation, so that you deal with the body. You don't have to deal with philosophies and thoughts. You can forget all those, what you've learned. Just trace Four Noble Truths into sensation. Trace the arising of a discrete dukkha, stress, as pulling up and away, pushing away, resisting. And the cessation of stress here would be just the nowness and the presence, the weightedness, that healing feeling. Effort and concentration, mindfulness is all focused on coming back to this ground of weightedness, peace and relaxation, noticing each new arising of the ego and its activities. And be sneaky, think sneaky like the ego thinks. The ego is sneaky, it hides, knows. The better you get at tracking its movements, the better it'll get at hiding. But that's fine. We've got its number, as we say. And it's not bad to have an ego. It can actually help. Have a heavy one. You can see it better. But make your gochara, as the Buddha says, your cow pasture, where you hang out, like your hangout spot, place where you can see the arising of this and the falling away of that, and return to a sense of peace and quiet. You can make that dance and entanglement into stress. You can point your mind at the arising and the cessation of that. Can't deny there's a phenomenal world that arises and disappears. Or can you? How are you resisting the knowledge of impermanence, that there is a phenomenal world with a discrete beginning and a discrete end? Or how is the mind on automatic resisting it? You might have the knowledge of impermanence, but are all mind behaviors in line with the knowledge of impermanence? We want something good to happen to us. We want it to last forever. So where is there something permanent in the present moment? That's why we bow down to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, because the Buddha resoundingly said yes. And he was right. And you know what was already here before the arising of this and the falling away of that. There's a world you can point to. There's a world you point away from. You can turn the gaze back in enter that ground of reality, acceptance, and surrender. What knows the arising of this and the falling away of that is not itself arising and falling away. It was there before the arising and thereafter. How could you have the knowledge of impermanence without a ground? You can have a knowing of this that arises and disappears, and a knowing of that that disappears, but that consciousness, that sense consciousness, is impermanent in self. There's still something beyond that. So keep looking for it. The Buddha said there was a permanent knowing base, a permanent knowing element. And it's the easiest point to find, the hardest because we've been conditioned to jump past it and declare a world is in front of us. Look back, fall back, surrender. Trust where you're coming from. Trust yourself. Stabilize the mind and coming back. This trusting, knowing. So that an arising is just a falling away from the truth. The light of that inner knowing shines only to itself. It only shows itself to itself. Knowing can only know itself as itself. And so it's beyond words, beyond experience. So forget the words. It's closer to the surrender of sensation. It's more like a known, a knowable element everywhere present. It's perfectly still, with any movement occurring, perfectly free, any arising, passing away. Can continue to observe the phenomenal world through sound, the rising of this sound. Notice the discreteness and the unitary, what seems like a unitary sound, or maybe the clock. Tick. You can focus on the field of silence. Lose the sense of clock over there, here. Just open up the field of non-sound first, then the field of silence, the spaciousness, the true spaciousness that is, not some imagined spaciousness, but the actual spaciousness of silence. For me, it feels like the sound is inside me, you know, perceive, and out there feels like my body's ticking like the clock, and it vibrates every cell, and it might frighten you when you first lose that ego layer that protects you, thinks it's protecting you, but it's not. It's just a dysfunctional, somewhat dysfunctional form of lying to yourself. There's only just contact, mind contact with the sound. That contact is here, it's in the knowing. It's right. It's like the hearing and the knowing are right, one and the same. And so there's a sense of the sound arising in the present moment is inseparable from here. Mind stops doing the work of making it there, making it a label, maybe making it a function. Notice how that sound doesn't alter the silence. It's not that silence that surrounds the sound is not hurt by the sound. There's no hearer here that can be hurt or offended by the sound. Just like the field of silence can't be hurt or touched or altered in any way. Sound just arises within it. There's no resistance. Can you let hearing just be the hearing? Not have the heard on one side and the subject on the other. It can be an activity of thinking without a thinker. Cognition wants to grasp and pull a thought in, fondle it. And you feel that fondling of cognition that wants to, ooh, that's a good thought. I want to remember that. No, thinking is drunk with its power. We can sober it up by looking for the gaps between each discrete set of thinking. It's generated by heat in the heart. There's a quality of heat that thought interacts with. It's the heat of resistance of reality, really. It appears in the form of greed, anger, or delusion, but it's more advanced. I mean, not advanced. It'll take more time to actually see that live, that interaction, than we have time for today. But inviting the reflection about thought, it really is the doorway to waking up, seeing the manufacturing process of thinking, how it generates a sense of permanent self, and disguise the true nature of anatta, of not self. It's hard to do when when you're hurt, then thoughts jump in to help. Like they're friends, but they don't know when to stop, and they build up a sense of a self that's being hurt or shamed or traumatized. And your thoughts want to love you by finding a solution. Sometimes they just overcrowd the situation and they don't solve it. So you can love them back by comforting the thoughts back, treating their love for you with love back, by just seeing them, that nothing needs protecting. The world is open and naked. There's no self that needs protecting. Just trust that a solution will arise, that just stay with the feeling of hurtness that's generating the connection between the ego and the thought, and that love process that looks like a thought storm. Just love it back, love it gently, love it wisely, let it be as they are in their desire to protect you. The wisest thought will step forward and will allow the warm sensations in the heart to soften, and thoughts will subside, and the storm nature of thinking will subside, and the wisdom will arise from there. And whatever will be, and whatever is. The isness will be the solution. Strategy towards being, towards nature, towards reality is the strategy of nirodha, cessation of suffering. It's just a different orientation than we're used to. We're used to hearing that, oh, if I tried for this and it didn't work, I'll just think harder, be more ambitious, try harder, try again. And that's right. That's a third person scientific approach to the world, to solving problems. But when it comes to dukkha, to happiness and suffering, these strategies keep believing in the impermanent world, finding a quick fix, they're bandages. They work for a while and then they don't work. They work for a while and then they don't work. And eventually you have to look for a permanent happiness if you really are sincere. And I hope you all are sincere and you trust that there is a permanent solution and that you're willing to put in the work to stop hiding this truth from yourself, that it's already there, you already know it, you're all already awake, that there already is a now present here that's fully wise, that needs nothing, that's absorbed within itself. As I think Rupert Spira said in the title of one of his books, you are the happiness that you seek. Hope those words settle in with you. There is. There's nothing more to say. Just keep surrendering. You can do that in your daily lives. Fall back. Simplify your life. Relax. Trust. Surrender. Practice truthfulness and authenticity. Outsmart the smartest thing on earth, which is the ego. Let it rest. Love it back. Love its forms of thought storms that will fight you against. Don't trust your fear of your own emotions. Don't trust fear. Trust what is arising. Touch it with open spaciousness and love. Let it teach you and let it liberate itself. Anu. 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 Bye.